What exactly got lost with the cut content from SpellForce 2 Dragonstorm? A question I've asked myself numerous times over the years. For those of you who don't know, you may have noticed that Dragonstorm starts somewhat differently to the other games Phenomic made. It has no proper cinematic at the start or end of the game, instead using scenes rendered from inside it. You start with a character at level 10 instead of the usual level 1, and some maps and content feel a bit rushed. It's pretty well known why this happened. Dragonstorm was developed at a time when Jowood, the publisher for SpellForce back in the day, was facing bankruptcy. To somewhat prolong the inevitable, they began selling some of the developer studios they owned, which included Phenomic being sold to EA, the same EA that many of you will be aware of. This, however, was a bit of an issue, because though they were sold, they still had a contractual obligation to finish Dragonstorm or at least make it presentable and somewhat ready for release. And this was made even harder due to the fact that many of Phenomic's developers had already left the company following the EA acquisition, meaning that only the core team, including people like the creative director, lead writer, lead programmers, and so on, were left to do the job. This ultimately resulted in a lot of content that was deemed unnecessary or that simply required too much time to be completed and for the game to be finished around what worked, giving us the game we got today. But through all of that, we never really found out what exactly was scrapped. Some pieces of knowledge came from the artbook of the game, showing us some artwork of locations we'd have likely visited, such as Aeonia's Blade, as well as some scrapped units like the Shaikan Titan, who was originally meant to be a giant blade, similar to the ones of Yasha Ashir. Speaking of whom, and this isn't confirmed, but I personally feel that Yasha is an example of lacking content since, while I do like the character, some of her character arc feels a bit rushed and could use more explanation, which could be a result of the game being rushed in general. This lack of information had me contact Arne Ömer, the original story writer of SpellForce, to ask if maybe he remembers some of the things that have been cut. Understandably, he wasn't able to remember everything since this happened more than 15 years ago, but still a big thanks to him for all the info. According to him, they wanted to make more maps on Godaland, as he feels the one map we have right now, the Refuge, is lacking considering it's a brand new continent they wanted to explore, and that makes sense from a gameplay perspective if you ask me, as I could definitely see our heroes having to move throughout multiple maps on Godaland before finally reaching the dragons, who are held up in the far northeast. He also says that they wanted to implement the floating city of the Shapers a bit more into the gameplay, with it being visible from the maps and with gameplay integrated into the journeys we take with it, such as random encounters and discoveries, which would have definitely been nice to see. They also planned some sort of dragon riding for our avatar, which never made it past the planning stage, though funnily enough it later got implemented into Faith and Destiny, most likely from the nodes that were left behind after Dragonstorm's development. I could definitely see this being used on a map like the Misty Coast to transport our avatar from island to island instead of using the journey stones we have right now. And finally, he remembers that they wanted to make the end fight against the Shaper a lot more complex than what it is, using gameplay to push our avatar to use the Allfire instead of having it as a short cinematic. He couldn't remember more there, but says that they wanted to make the ending a lot less sudden than how it is right now. All of these things are pretty interesting, and I do hope that if we do get some sort of remaster or complete edition of Dragonstorm at some point, those things will be implemented, together with other things that might be hidden away in the notes of some old developer. And even though I love all the games Phenomic made, Dragonstorm is amongst my favorites for a lot of reasons, and I would love to see it realized to its full potential. But what do you think? Did you know about the circumstances surrounding Dragonstorm's development? Let me know, and also let me know if I missed something below, and don't forget to join our fan communities. The links are all in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye.